is I can be the greatest inventor of my generation. Which doesn't mean much without the resources to bring my ideas to life. After my internship abroad, I realized I'm gonna need the equivalent of a whole vibranium mountain to be great. I need cash, money. Do you think Tony Stark would be Tony Stark if he wasn't a billionaire? No shade. That's just the way the world works.
When I tell you that that statement alone spawned so many brain dead takes, not only brain dead takes, but people who started putting words in her mouth. Because, like she said, no shade to Tony Stark, but he has a level of access, not only the Stark name, but inheriting a $1 billion company from his father that she will never have. Tony was allowed to fail. He builds the Mark 1, he fails repeatedly with the Mark 2, he gets the Mark 3 up and running. All of that requires money. If you sit down and you watch, you know what? We're going to make this fun. I'm I'm not going to reference the comics because I already know most of y'all don't read that. I am not going to be talking about the entirety of the MCU. I'm only going to take sources from Iron Man 1, 2, and 3 to basically make Riri's point, right? And also detract a few points that people have. So let's talk about just how privileged Tony Stark is. Not no shade. We're talking about Tony Stark the man, right? He's born to Howard Stark. He in Upon Howard Stark's death, he inherits a multi-billion-dollar weapons factory in the form of Stark Industries, right? The day-to-day is basically run by two people. It's run by Pepper Potts, who handles Tony's personal business, and then it's run by Obadiah Stane, who handles the business side of things, right? Right then and there, Tony is the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar corporation where he does not have to step foot in. He's allowed to basically be the genius billionaire playboy philanthropist because he doesn't have to sit on board meetings. He doesn't have to make sure that his company is going in this certain direction in regards to building certain things. He is free to basically go around, have fun, live his life. Okay? Tony Stark is allowed to fail. He builds the Mark 1. It's made out of the parts of his multi-billion-dollar weapons tech that the Ten Rings have essentially stolen. It's not a box of scraps. It's billions of dollars of missiles and defense tech he sold to the United States that they essentially stole. But he builds the Mark 1, it falls apart. He builds the Mark 2, which is the silver one, and it's not perfect. He ends up building the Mark 3, and the Mark 3 is damn near fan fucking tastic. How much money do you think goes into that? Because Tony himself says when he has the icing problem in Iron Man 1, he literally tells Jarvis, I need you to get in contact with like a space agency and get me the metal that they use for their ship.
Notes, main transducer feels sluggish at plus 40 altitude. Hull pressurization is problematic. I'm thinking icing is a probable factor.
A very astute observation, sir. Perhaps if you intend to visit other planets, we should improve the exosystems.
Connect to the Cisco, have it reconfigure the shell metals, use the gold titanium alloy from the Seraphim tactical satellite. That should ensure fuselage integrity while maintaining power to weight ratio. Got it?
Yes. Shall I render using proposed specifications?
Throw me.
That prevents this type of issue from building up on space shuttles as they exit atmosphere and enter atmosphere, or when they exit atmo or get high in the atmosphere and begin to freeze. Who has access to that? Who has the ability to call up somebody and be like, hey, it's Tony Stark, I need you to send me 20 tons of your anti-freezing metal. I don't know what the fuck the name of the metal is, but it's anti-freezing metal. Ship it to my house. Nobody has access to doing that, but he's Tony Stark. You're going to want to hope to do business with Stark Industries at some point in time. You're going to want to hope that you and Tony have a sit down to work on some crazy project that you're essentially working on in the future. Tony's name carries a ton of weight. A random person, black, white, Asian, Middle Eastern, Filipino, doesn't matter where the fuck you come from, but a random person, your name could be Calvin Johnson. How many Calvin Johnsons are there in the world? why would I send you this to your house? Why would I even sell it to you in general? I have no idea who you are. There's so many clearances that you have to go through as a private citizen to own certain shit. Tony was having missile technology sent to his house. He was having weapons platforms he put in the Iron Man suits to send to his house. Any other normal person is ordering this type of shit. You ain't ordering that on Amazon. Any normal person ordering that type of stuff is getting put on a government watch list. Shield is showing up to your house to arrest you. It expeditiously the next day. Probably not even the next day. They're pretending to be the Amazon delivery guy dropping off the weapon circuitry board that you asked so that you can go put it in your Iron Man suit. They are there that same day. Nobody else has that level of access. But the Stark name carries weight. So now we jump into the idea that just because you're a genius, you should be able to apply yourself and become a billionaire. Okay, so let's talk about, and I gotta pull his name up because I low-key be forgetting his name. My first man, Whiplash from Iron Man 2, Ivan Vanko, just as smart as Tony. He sits down and he recreates the arc reactor tech, but he's a criminal. He applies his genius in the realm of criminality that lands him in jail because he has to steal, he has to kill, he has to deceive, he has to betray, he has to do all of these different things in order to even get the lowest tier version of what Tony can buy with money just straight out. And then what happens when he's actually given resources? The motherfucker shows up in a whole goddamn Iron Man suit at the end of Iron Man 2 to run the ones with Tony. It's crazy what happens when you don't have the means. You have the smarts, but you don't have the means, and then you suddenly are presented with the means, and you're able to design your own armor that can go toe to toe with Iron Man. To be quite honest, if it wasn't for the fact that there were two of them, he would definitely killed Iron Man at the end of Iron Man 2. But that's not either here nor there. That's a whole other discussion. Okay, but what if you're able to apply yourself? You go to MIT, you get the doctorate in whatever science it is that you're studying in. What happens when you build that company? Well, the villain of Iron Man 3 explains that, Aldrich Killian. Aldrich was just as smart as Tony. He created the Extremis program. Hey, me popping in. So I said that Aldrich Killian was the one that designed the Extremis technology. Technically, yes, and also no. The person who designed the Extremis technology in Iron Man 3 was Maya Hansen. She's the woman that Tony sleeps with in that elevator scene. She's also the one that shows up later on at his house when the house gets attacked. But Aldrich Killian did come in towards the end of that project, co-opted, and then assisted her in the completion of that. But outside of that, he did create AIM, which is advanced idea mechanics, and create an entire, basically, terrorist cell to cause havoc and destruction across the entire planet. Felt as though I should pop in and essentially say that because I was watching it later on and I realized that I essentially misspoke. But yeah, back to the video. That gave people fucking superpowers. He was just as driven as Tony, but he didn't have the doors. He didn't have the funding. Nobody took him seriously because his last name was not Stark. He gets dismissed. He goes to Tony as like the last, like the last grain of hope to speak with him, and even Tony himself dismisses him in Iron Man 3. So what does he do? He becomes a criminal. He uses his intelligence to create a fake 10 rings, and he adopts the persona of the Mandarin of some legend that he essentially heard, and he becomes I don't know if he becomes like a multi-billion-dollar criminal. They never really say how rich he is, but he becomes rich enough that he's able to basically fund his own research in secret and then also wage war against the United States military clandestinely. He wasn't outwardly waging war, but he was hitting them at pressure points that had the US sweating. The president was in shambles. Okay? So now those are two. But what if you avoid all of that? You're a genius. You've made it to the top of the mountain. You've earned a position at a respectable company such as Stark Industries. You end up working for somebody like Obadiah Stane, the guy who ends up working for Obadiah Stane, where Obadiah's and he's like, Tony Stark built this in a cave with a bunch of scraps. That guy that we like to meme on. He was a genius. How do we know that? Because he pops up again as the main tech guy for Mysterio when he's messing with Spider-Man in fucking Europe. Guess what? Obadiah Stane steals all of that guy's ideas. He steals all of his designs. He has that guy and his team build him an Iron Man suit. Well, technically, he has that guy and his team fail to turn the arc reactor from big to small, but then they assist with the production of Obadiah Stane's Iron Man armor. You really think somebody like Obadiah Stane, who's driven, who's hungry, who's willing to take somebody else's work and pass it off as his own, who's only in it for profits, you really think somebody like Obadiah Stane would ever let you become big enough to be a threat? You think he'd ever allow you to have some type of upward movement and growth inside of Stark Industries, where someday you may become CEO? Or if you decide to leave, he would leave you alone and he wouldn't show up and mess with you in every way, shape, and form? That when you create something, he wouldn't have his lawyers serve you with a cease and desist saying that what you just created is proprietary technology that you were working on at Stark Industries? Let's be serious. There are certain things that are afforded to Tony because of his last name. Because he's Tony Stark. He's Howard Stark's son. He's the multi-billion-dollar owner of Stark Industries, the biggest weapons manufacturer in the MCU till the end of Iron Man 1, and then it becomes a proprietary technology company creating everyday household items and things along those lines. She's right. She has the brains, but she doesn't have the resources. She doesn't have the last name, and she falls into the exact same trap that every other genius in the MCU fell into, which is I need to make my dreams happen now, today, because there are forces at work that are literally willing to hold me down and lock me in place. And if I don't play by their rules, they're willing to get me the fuck up out of here. But that's all I really wanted to talk about, because I always thought that like that whole "we back baby" and that whole conversation aggravated it aggravated my soul. But let me know what you guys think. Comment down below. I already know there's gonna be people in here that could be like, no, he built it literally in a cave with a bunch of scraps. Sure, whatever you say, buddy. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong that Tony Stark's last name doesn't award him certain privileges that people like me and you living our daily lives could never even fucking dream of accessing. But yeah, comment down below. Let me know. The Ironheart train continues, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.